On the wedding day, I was dressed in a snow-white wedding dress and had on delicate makeup, waiting expectantly for Ethan to come and pick me up for the wedding. I waited from daytime until nightfall, but he never showed up. I made countless phone calls, yet he didn't answer any of them. I became the biggest laughingstock in the eyes of my relatives and friends. My mother, who had already suffered from heart disease, couldn't bear this shock and had a sudden myocardial infarction and passed away on that very day. At the same time, Ethan's first love, Olivia, posted a moment's update. "You're always there for me when I'm sad. It's so nice to have you." The accompanying picture was an intimate photo of the two of them with their faces close together. I was trembling all over as I took a screenshot and sent it to Ethan. "Is this the reason why you were absent from our wedding?" It wasn't until my mother's body was cremated and buried that Ethan's reply finally came. "We can get married on any day, but she can't do without me. Ethan, let's break up." After sending this last message, I blocked Ethan. I had chased Ethan for 2 years and been in a relationship with him for 5 years. In those 7 years, during the most beautiful years of my youth, Ethan was everything to me. He said he liked girls with shoulder-length short hair, so I didn't hesitate to cut my long black hair that I had kept for many years. He said he didn't like girls who were too fat, so I always kept my weight within 90 kgs. Even when I was so hungry that I had low blood sugar, I didn't dare to take one more bite of sweet food. He said girls should be independent, so even when I was so sick that I needed an operation, I didn't dare to ask him to accompany me to the hospital. I was afraid that he would think I was being overly sentimental. All these years, I had been loving him humbly, carefully changing myself according to his preferences, always thinking that as long as I worked hard enough, he would notice my goodness. But it wasn't until I saw Olivia that I realized I had lived like a copy of someone else. No matter when or where, as long as Olivia made a phone call, Ethan would immediately go to her without hesitation. He always said, "You're so independent that you'll surely be okay, but Olivia can't do without me. She needs me." My cautious attempts to be strong had become an excuse for Ethan to take care of Olivia time and time again. After blocking Ethan, I knelt in front of my mother's grave and wiped her tombstone. My father had passed away early, and it was my mother who had brought me up all by herself over the years. For my sake, she had dedicated everything. Her biggest wish was to see me and Ethan walk into the marriage hall with her own eyes. But in the end, I couldn't make her wish come true. I'm so sorry to her. I stayed in front of my mother's grave for a long time before I left. Before I had walked far, I saw Ethan helping Olivia walking towards me. Olivia was holding an urn in her hands, looking haggard and extremely delicate. "Ethan, this place is close to home. If we bury my son here, can we pretend that he has never left?" The son Olivia mentioned was the teddy dog she had adopted some time ago. I was about to walk around them, but Ethan noticed me at first glance. He blocked my way, like a huge mountain. "Are you following me?" Ethan sounded displeased. After all, this was a cemetery, and ordinary people wouldn't come here without a reason. My appearance made Ethan think of being followed immediately. I wasn't in the mood to argue with him and was just about to pass by him and leave. Olivia immediately stepped forward, looking weak and delicate. "Anna, my son suddenly died of illness." Ethan saw that I was so sad, so he has been staying with me to handle my son's funeral affairs. "I hope you don't misunderstand." Olivia sounded sincere, but there was an obvious provoking meaning in her eyes. "Oh, your boyfriend is really considerate to you." Ethan frowned slightly. "Anna, can't you show a bit of sympathy? Chocho is dead, and Olivia is already very sad. Do you have to be so sarcastic here?" Ethan couldn't wait to stand up for her, afraid that his Olivia would suffer the slightest grievance. I didn't want to argue with them, nor could I sympathize with Olivia. I was just tired. "Indeed, there's no need. I'm leaving now." I directly walked past Ethan and left in big strides. Seeing that I didn't argue, didn't stop, and resolutely left, Ethan couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Coming to his senses, he immediately stepped forward and caught up with me. "It's been so many days. Are you still angry that I didn't attend the wedding?" His tone was as if he had attended the wedding of someone insignificant, and my anger seemed to be unreasonable. Indeed, this was Ethan. No matter how big a thing it was for me, it didn't matter to him. He could commit any mistake with a clear conscience because I used to forgive him unconditionally. It's all in the past, I said coldly without looking at him again. Chiuchiu's death has made Olivia's condition very bad. I was worried that something might happen to her, so I missed the wedding. Your mother wasn't angry with me, was she? Could you apologize to her on my behalf? Even if Ethan had shown the slightest concern for me in these past days, he should have noticed something unusual and known that my mother had passed away, but he didn't. There's no chance. After saying that, I left again. Ethan reached out and grabbed me. Okay, let's just say it's my fault this time. But your mother always treated me like her own son. She would surely forgive me. Anna, let's pick another day and get married again, okay? Perhaps sensing that my attitude was very different from before, he finally put aside his high and mighty attitude and tried to coax me. If my mother hadn't died and everything was still okay, I might have been moved by him and forgiven him. But now, it would never happen. I will never marry you again. I shook off Ethan's hand, completely ignored him, and left resolutely. As if sensing that he was about to lose something, Ethan took out his phone and dialed his secretary's number. Evelyn, help me send a big gift to Anna's mother as an apology. By the way, tell her that in 2 days, I will marry Anna with the most magnificent ceremony. Before I could walk out of the cemetery gate, I received a call from the cemetery administrator. Someone was digging up my mother's grave. These words were like a bolt from the blue, shattering my heart once again. I immediately turned around and rushed towards my mother's grave like crazy. My mother was kind-hearted all her life and gave everything for me. Even when she learned that she had heart disease and her life was in danger at any time, she told me that there should be no name engraved on her tombstone in the future. Only the words, "May my daughter be safe and happy all her life," needed to be engraved. She said these words were her lifelong wish and also the origin of my name. Ethan, my son will surely like this new home. As soon as I arrived, I saw that the urn of Olivia's pet dog had already been placed in my mother's grave and 2 bodyguards from Ethan's family were refilling the soil to bury it at that moment. And my mother's urn was left alone on the side. What are you doing? I rushed over and questioned them like crazy. Who gave you the permission to dig up other people's graves without authorization? Olivia pretended to be scared and hid in Ethan's arms. This is the new home I chose for my son. We've already informed the cemetery administrator. I saw that the words engraved on the tombstone are all about wishing the daughter to be safe and happy all her life. I'll just give the daughter of the deceased more money later. She'll surely be willing. Why are you so excited? It's really scary. I pushed past them and snatched the shovel from the bodyguard's hands and frantically dug up the soil they had just filled in. Anna, what are you making a fuss about again? Stop it. Ethan snatched the shovel from my hands. Ethan, you're not human. I roared and then started digging with my hands. Seeing that I was about to reach the urn soon, Olivia got anxious. Stop her quickly. My son is already so pitiful. I won't allow it to be dug out again. The 2 bodyguards immediately pinned me down. Let me go. I struggled desperately but couldn't break free from their restraint at all. Olivia is already very sad, yet you still want to dig up Chiuchiu's grave to stimulate her. You're really going too far. Apologize to her quickly. Never. Olivia dug up my mother's grave to bury her dog. I wished I could tear her to pieces. Ethan, you've always said that she's gentle and considerate. I think she's just pretending in front of you. Look at how crazy and scary she was just now. If you really marry her, you'll surely be laughed at by others. Olivia took the opportunity to whisper in Ethan's ear, looking at me with a provocative look on her face. Who dares to laugh at the woman of mine, Ethan? Ethan's words made Olivia look unhappy for a moment, but that bit of unhappiness disappeared in an instant. She was best at disguising herself. Just like she clearly didn't like dogs but insisted on adopting a teddy. Ethan walked towards me with a cold and stern look on his face. Anna, you're being so sentimental just for a grave. You really disappoint me. Apologize to Olivia quickly, and I can consider forgiving you. I won't do it. I gritted my teeth and didn't back down at all. Don't forget that your mother's illness still depends on the medicine from my company to be maintained. The only operation that could completely cure her heart disease, which I mentioned before, has already been arranged for next week. Ethan's words were full of threats. Do you mean that you'll cut off my mother's chance of survival for her? My mother had always treated Ethan like her own son. She always told me not to let Ethan down and that he was a man worthy of entrusting my life to. Ethan also respected my mother because she had saved his life once. Ethan had promised my mother more than once that he would definitely cure her heart disease and let her live a long life with many descendants. I really didn't expect that Ethan would use my mother's life to threaten me just for Olivia. Ethan took out his phone coldly and continued to threaten, yes, so will you apologize or not? Haha. Although I had already given up on Ethan in my heart, at this moment, I was still extremely disappointed that he could be so heartless for Olivia. Tears involuntarily rolled down from my eyes. Seeing me crying, Ethan frowned slightly and a strange look flashed in his eyes. He was about to say something when Olivia gave me a disgusted look. I really don't know why you're being so dramatic. It's not like you're digging up your ancestral grave. After saying that, she looked at the bodyguards behind me and waved her hand. Fill the grave again and let my son rest in peace. The two bodyguards let go of me and went to fill the grave again. I immediately stepped forward to stop them. Have you had enough of making trouble? Ethan grabbed me and threw me hard. I was thrown to the ground by him, and my shoulder just hit my mother's urn. The urn was knocked over, and the ashes spilled all over the ground. Looking at the ashes scattered on the ground, my mind went blank in an instant. I just felt that the air around me seemed to freeze, and I couldn't breathe. It was already my greatest pain that my mother passed away with regrets. At this moment, I couldn't even protect her ashes well. I was in pain and full of hatred. It seemed that God was also against me, as it suddenly started to rain without warning. The rain wet my mother's ashes. No, don't. I lay on the ground in despair and quickly gathered the ashes on the ground with my hands. But I couldn't stop them from slipping away through my fingers. A huge sense of guilt swept over me from the bottom of my heart, and my heart felt like it was about to break. Anna, you're crawling on the ground like a dog for a stranger's urn. You're really overacting in this melodramatic scene. Olivia stepped forward and stepped on my mother's ashes, looking down at me condescendingly. Go away. I pushed her away like crazy. Olivia staggered and fell backwards. Ethan was quick-eyed and caught her in time. Anna, you almost pushed Olivia down. Ethan was very angry. I must teach you a lesson today. He took out his phone and said coldly, Evelyn, don't send the gift. Besides, cut off the medicine for Anna's mother. And the arranged operation should be cancelled immediately. On the other end of the phone, Evelyn was silent for a while before stammering, President Ethan, Miss Anna's mother passed away on the day of your wedding. I also found out that the grave that Miss Olivia dug to bury her dog was exactly where Miss Anna's mother was buried. What are you talking nonsense about? How could this be possible? Ethan's eyes widened, and his face was full of disbelief. It's true, President Ethan. On the other end of the phone, Evelyn emphasized with absolute certainty. Ethan numbly put down his phone and looked at me with a pale face. I was still mechanically gathering the ashes on the ground, not wanting to miss a single bit. Ethan walked towards me shakily. I'm sorry, Anna. I didn't know. Let me help you. Ethan crouched down and began to gather my mother's ashes with his hands. Don't touch my mother. You don't deserve it. I vigorously shook off his hand, quickly cleaned up the ashes on the ground, and then roared at him, Ethan, my mother was so kind to you. Not only did you cause her death, but you didn't even spare her ashes. How could you do this to her? Ethan looked at me helplessly, like a child who had done something wrong. I caused her death? Anna, what on earth is going on? Wasn't your mother's condition improving? She was stable enough to have the operation arranged. Why did she suddenly pass away? Ethan was completely at a loss. I stood up and said word by word, why? Okay, I'll tell you why. On the day of our wedding, my mother got up with me at 3 o'clock in the morning to help me with my makeup and dressing. She said she wanted to be a witness to my marriage. She said she wanted to see you holding my hand and walking into the wedding hall with her own eyes. Do you know? She was especially happy that day, and the smile never left her face. When relatives and friends came to the wedding, she told everyone she met that she had found an outstanding son-in-law, that you were very filial and took good care of her. She really liked you and couldn't help praising you everywhere. But we waited from morning until noon, yet you didn't show up. I made countless phone calls to you, but you didn't answer any of them. The relatives were talking about it and asked my mother very puzzledly, "Isn't your son-in-law outstanding and filial? Why hasn't he come to pick up the bride so late?" My mother was extremely embarrassed, but she still forced a smile and said that you might be delayed by something and asked everyone to wait a little longer. Like this, my mother and I comforted all the relatives and waited from noon until night. During this period, I kept calling you, but you didn't even send a single reply. My mother got worried. She wasn't angry but was worried that something might have happened to you. By the time it got dark, relatives and friends left one after another. When they left, everyone looked at my mother and me with strange eyes. Some even cursed on the spot and asked if my mother and I were playing tricks on everyone and that there was actually no wedding at all. Otherwise, how could the groom not send any message? They said they had never attended such an absurd wedding. My mother was stunned at that time and didn't know how to reply to them. She didn't blame you but only blamed herself for not being able to find a reason to cover up for you at that time, so that you didn't leave a good impression on everyone. Look, even though you had made things so ugly, she was still thinking about you. After all the relatives and friends left, only my mother and I were left. It was already 9 o'clock in the evening at that time. She wasn't in good health. I advised her to rest. Actually, I already knew in my heart that you probably wouldn't come, but she just didn't believe it. She said that Ethan was the most sensible and how could he be absent on such an important occasion? So she continued to wait for you. Ethan, you are like the lofty moon in the sky. You may never understand how we felt at that time, nor can you experience that disappointment is a particularly long and torturous ordeal. Those few hours felt like years to us, and it was really hard to endure. Until early morning, she finally lost hope in you. She knew that you wouldn't come. This incident hit her too hard. After realizing the fact that you wouldn't come, her heart was stimulated and she had a myocardial infarction and died on the spot. Ethan, do you know? During this period, if you had just returned one of my calls, my mother's outcome would have been different. But what about you? You only had your Olivia in your eyes. You didn't care about us at all. Even missing our wedding was a completely insignificant thing to you. The rain stopped and I had finished speaking. Everything should come to an end. Ethan looked at my mother's urn with his eyes moist. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He who had never bowed his head to me before seemed to be able to only say, I'm sorry, at this moment. It's too late. Everything is too late. She can't hear your apology, and you can't wait for her forgiveness either. I said coldly with no emotion on my face. I'm sorry, Anna. I know this is all my fault. I really didn't expect such serious consequences. I didn't mean it. Ethan was full of guilt and his eyes revealed a longing look. I knew that he hoped that I could as before smile and tell him it didn't matter. I looked indifferent. There's no need to apologize to me because I will never forgive you. After saying that, I walked away with the already cleaned urn in big strides. Olivia stood aside staring at me unblinkingly. In her eyes, although they seemed calm, they were actually full of the joy of a victor. As I passed by her, I said to her, Congratulations. You won. After leaving the cemetery, I took my mother's urn and went to the house that Ethan and I had lived in and started packing my luggage. I didn't have many things. Most of the clothes in the wardrobe were bought to please Ethan, but actually I didn't like them myself, so I threw them all away. Now I didn't want anything related to Ethan anymore. Including him. Just as I finished packing and was about to leave, Ethan showed up. He looked a bit dispirited. Anna, I bought your favorite jackfruit. Ethan's voice was very soft and there was a hint of caution in his tone. Looking at him now, I seemed to see myself in the past. I used to be just like him, humble and pitiful and always cautious. But I was like that because of love, while he was like that because of guilt. I don't like jackfruit at all. I ate it only because you liked it. You don't understand me at all. It's completely over between us. I said coldly without changing my expression. 7 years. For a full 7 years, in order to make Ethan's eyes stay on me for a few more seconds, I did everything I could to change myself and to please and flatter him. Everything about me revolved around him. If he smiled at me, I could be happy for several days. If he frowned slightly, I would be so panicked that I didn't know what to do. I loved him blindly and even completely lost myself. During those days when I wasn't loved, I was always worried about gains and losses, cautious, and as humble as a dog. Until he agreed to marry me, I excitedly thought that I had finally seen the light at the end of the tunnel. But I was wrong. Love is the most elusive thing in the world that can't be forced. Love is like thick fog that will block our vision. Only by letting it go can we see the road ahead clearly. If I had woken up a bit earlier, perhaps my mother wouldn't have fallen into the expectation of Ethan with me. I hated Ethan and I also hated myself in the past. Anna, didn't you say that your biggest wish in life was to marry me? Don't go. I'll marry you tomorrow. I'll make you the most dazzling bride in this city. Ethan reached out to try to hold me back, but I dodged sideways. I don't know when it started, but I began to resist Ethan's approach. The most dazzling bride? Ethan, don't you think that's too ironic? Mentioning the wedding was like rubbing salt into my wounds. Ethan actually thought that I was still looking forward to becoming his bride. He really overestimated his position in my heart. His hand froze in midair. He stared at me blankly for a while and then continued in a low voice, I know I was wrong last time. I've also realized my problem. I just made it clear to Olivia that I won't contact her anymore in the future. Ethan, you don't have to swallow your pride to make up for your mistakes. You and I will go our separate ways from now on and have nothing to do with each other. No, I'm not trying to make up for my mistakes. I really don't want to lose you and want to be with you properly, Ethan quickly explained, looking sincere. But it was hard for me to believe. I couldn't tell whether it was true or false and I didn't bother to guess. Goodbye. I said goodbye to Ethan and didn't look back or stop at all. Love is the most illusory thing in the world. Once it dissipates, it disappears without a trace. I took my mother's urn and left this city. My mother once told me that if she were younger, she would like to go to the countryside to teach as a volunteer to help more young and helpless children and those young mothers who were lost in the countryside. Just like when she raised me alone, she had also longed for others' help. Because she had been through hardships herself, she wanted to hold an umbrella for those in the rain. And now, I wanted to be that umbrella. I was going to fulfill her wish for her. I went to a very remote small mountain village. It was there that my mother had saved Ethan when he was a teenager. At that time, Ethan was seriously ill. It seemed that he had been forgotten in the mountain forest. My mother found him and took him home, treated his illness, took care of his injuries, and provided him with food and clothes. It was already very hard for my mother to raise me alone. After picking up Ethan, her life became even more difficult. She worked 2 jobs every day. In just a few months, my mother suddenly looked several years older. At that time, Ethan was so ill that he couldn't even speak. Opening and closing his eyes and breathing were the only things he could do every day. Even when it came to drinking porridge, my mother had to spoon it into his mouth 1 spoonful at a time. I was young at that time and just thought that this big brother was so annoying, making my mother so busy every day. She was too busy to accompany me or even have time to eat. I hated this big brother. But slowly, Ethan started to get better. He would keep staring at me, and he would make faces to make me laugh. I pursed my lips and stared at him blankly, wanting to laugh but not daring to. He didn't seem that annoying anymore. Under my mother's meticulous care, Ethan's body gradually returned to normal. Until 5 months later, he was able to get out of bed. He would help my mother clean the house, carry water and heavy things for her, and also play with me. I was so happy. But my mother wasn't happy about it. She said Ethan was suitable to see the bigger world and that he shouldn't be a person living in this rural area. My mother drove Ethan away. Before leaving, Ethan knelt down with tears in his eyes to thank my mother. And he said that he would definitely repay her for saving his life in the future. Ethan did keep his promise. After my mother and I had drifted from one city to another, Ethan, full of glory, found my mother. "Emma, I've been looking for you so hard." With red eyes, Ethan hugged my mother tightly. At that moment, it seemed that something stirred in my heart. Looking at Ethan, I had only one thought at that time. He's the one for me in this lifetime. Then came the 7 years when I was humble for love. We didn't know what had happened to Ethan when he was young or why he had been so seriously injured. He kept silent about it, and we never brought it up either. Everyone has a scar in their heart. It's the place where the sky once fell. It's hard to reconcile with it in this lifetime. When I returned to this small mountain village again, I immediately felt relaxed all over. The air here seemed to be able to lift one's spirits. The gloom that had weighed on my heart for a long time finally dissipated a little. I wanted to find the place where my mother and I had lived according to my memory. However, times had changed and this place had changed so much that I couldn't find it anymore. "Mom, you wouldn't blame me, would you?" With the urn in my arms, I found a piece of land beside the mountain and by the water, where birds were singing and flowers were blooming. I buried the urn in it and then stuck a bunch of flowers on the mound of earth. Watching my mother truly return to the dust, I somehow felt that a part of my heart was missing. It was a strange feeling. Is loss a necessary condition for growth? I don't understand. But Mom, everything that started here should come to a complete end here. I'll always be with you. Just like that, I stayed in this small mountain village and began my teaching life as a volunteer. Life was simple but fulfilling. Once I thought that happiness was having a beloved partner for a lifetime, living in harmony and having a happy family. But Ethan was always busy. Busy with work. Busy accompanying Olivia. Busy dealing with all kinds of things, big and small. He just didn't have time to stop for me. So I thought happiness was so hard to achieve. Now I think that happiness is the smiling faces of children, the recognition of parents, the dissemination of knowledge, and watching the children in the mountains grow up healthily. Actually, happiness can also be very simple. Here, I fully realized that living for myself was such a free and happy thing. I would like to live a simple and happy life like this forever. But God didn't go along with my wishes. My happy life didn't last long before it was interrupted. That night, on my way home after class, Olivia showed up. She gave me a strange smile and then everything went dark before my eyes. When I opened my eyes again, I had been locked up by Olivia in a dark and damp factory building. She was wearing an expensive dress and high, thin heels, standing in front of me like a noble princess, looking down at me. And I, with a dusty face, was tied to a wooden bench with my hands and feet bound. "Long time no see, Anna," Olivia said with a smile. Her casual tone was just like greeting an old friend. But she and I were not friends. She came with ill intentions. "What do you want to do?" I asked warily, looking around. There were 2 burly men standing behind me, staring at me maliciously. "What do I want to do?" "Well, you've got me there. I don't know. It depends on my mood." Olivia played with her fingernails and said lightly, "She must have gone to great lengths to find such a remote place. She couldn't have come here without a purpose. Is it because of Ethan? I have nothing to do with him anymore. There's no need for you to trouble me anymore." I looked at Olivia cautiously, feeling that her state was a bit off. She seemed a bit crazy. "Nothing to do with him?" Olivia snorted coldly and looked at me with hostility. "Ethan is almost going crazy because of you, and you tell me you have nothing to do with him?" I was slightly stunned. "Going crazy because of me? What do you mean?" I had clearly told Ethan to end everything and deleted all his contact information. I hadn't contacted him for such a long time. Why would he go crazy because of me? Olivia didn't answer my question but just looked at me coldly, sizing me up. "Anna, it seems that I underestimated you before. I really didn't expect that Ethan would actually be so heartless for you. In the past, he would feel so distressed even if I just frowned." Suddenly, she pounced on me, grabbed my chin tightly, and stared at me with fierce eyes. Today I just want to see what kind of magic potion you gave Ethan that made him not even look at me." Olivia, who always seemed delicate and fragile, suddenly seemed to turn into a fierce beast with its jaws wide open at this moment. It gave me a big fright. "What on earth do you want to do?" Looking at the changed Olivia, I felt a sense of unease in my heart. "Don't be nervous. I just want to know how far Ethan could love you." Olivia slightly parted her lips, and her long fingernails gently scratched across my face. Under the tingling touch, there was a bone-chilling fear. Then she got up and took 2 steps back, giving me a cold smile. "Bring me a knife." The man on my left handed Olivia a sharp dagger. Olivia took the knife and played with it flirtatiously. Her eyes looking at me were full of mockery, as if she was hesitating about how to butcher me like a lamb. The blade reflected a terrifying cold glint under the dim light. She slowly approached me again like a ghost. "Your face isn't that outstanding. How could it make Ethan unable to forget you?" She pouted, opened her eyes wide, and looked at me with a puzzled expression. Hidden in her fluttering big eyes was a vengeful desire for anger. She bent down and put the tip of the knife close to my right cheek. Then she slowly exerted force and stabbed it in. Hiss! A stinging pain hit me instantly. The cold blood quickly slid down my face and splashed onto my clothes, staining them red. Olivia slightly opened her mouth and pretended to be surprised. "Oh, why did it bleed with just a light touch? I wonder if Ethan will feel distressed when he sees this." Her tone was very affected, but the excitement in her eyes was almost palpable. "Olivia, are you crazy?" I endured the pain and gritted my teeth and shouted, "What's going on?" "Ethan has also been saying that I'm crazy recently." She tilted her head, looking puzzled. "But why do I think it's you two who are crazy? Originally, I thought that as long as I managed to ruin your wedding, you two would definitely break up completely. So I didn't hesitate to poison my dog myself. I clearly succeeded. He gave up marrying you for me. But why did he suddenly change completely after you left? You used to be like a lapdog following Ethan. Why does he suddenly care about you so much now? Tell me, if he isn't crazy, what is he?" Olivia became more and more excited and actually started to quickly stir the dagger in my face, in my flesh. Wherever the tip of the knife stirred, the flesh on my face was torn open. Soon, a knife mark as long as a finger slashed across my entire right cheek. The long and deep cut made my face look extremely hideous. Large drops of blood dripped down, and the clothes on my right shoulder were instantly soaked. "Ha ha ha." Seeing that my right face was completely ruined, Olivia happily pointed at me and laughed loudly. "Such a big cut, so scary. Now Ethan surely won't be infatuated with you anymore." Then, she looked at my left face. "No, there's still one side left. We should be fair and make it symmetrical on both sides." With that, she pointed the knife at my left face. The pain of the knife cut spread like a raging fire, burning every inch of my face. I was in so much pain that my lips turned white, my whole body trembled, and my consciousness became blurred. But Olivia didn't intend to let me go. On the contrary, the more uncomfortable I was, the more excited Olivia became. The cold dagger touched my left face. Just like before, with a crazy smile, Olivia slowly stabbed the tip of the knife in. The huge pain hit again and superimposed on the previous one. My originally blurred consciousness suddenly became a bit clearer at this moment. "Olivia, stop it. Don't be so stubborn. You'll only push Ethan further away by doing this." I spoke extremely weakly, trying to use Ethan to awaken Olivia's conscience. Olivia looked me up and down. "He has completely refused to see me. Could there be anything further than that?" The dagger was embedded in my flesh and started to stir and move around continuously. The heart-piercing pain made me wish I could just pass out. And Olivia was still murmuring to herself, "Do you know? Actually, I already knew that your mother had died, but I just didn't tell Ethan. Moreover, I took advantage of my dog's death and pretended to be extremely sad and out of control. I just wanted to make him stay completely by my side when you needed him the most. That day, I also deliberately went to seize your mother's grave. When I saw how devastated you were, I was so happy. I just wanted you to see with your own eyes how Ethan protected me and how he trampled on everything you loved for me. I struggled to lift my eyelids and asked, very puzzled, why? You had already won Ethan. Why did you have to target me so much? Even if you did nothing, he would still be desperate for you. Olivia sneered contemptuously. Before, Ethan completely belonged to me. But it's different after you appeared. I could feel that although he seemed cold to you on the surface, there was a place for you in his heart. He just didn't notice it himself or didn't want to admit it. Otherwise, why would he always be absent-minded when he was with me and even call me by your name by mistake? At first, I thought that as long as I used a few tricks, Ethan would definitely stay away from you. But whenever I complained about you in front of him, he would always deliberately or unintentionally defend you and even scold me for you. Anna, the balance in his heart has already tilted towards you. Do you think I should target you? Olivia roared, and the force of the dagger in her hand suddenly increased. Hiss. The intense pain eroded every part of my body. Every breath pulled at my wounds, like adding fuel to the fire. Olivia had completely lost her sanity because of love. She was crazy. And I, too, had been tied to the stake by the god of death and was on the verge of death. Okay, now your face is perfectly symmetrical. Olivia withdrew the dagger and looked at me with satisfaction. It was as if she was admiring her proud work. After admiring it for a while, Olivia seemed to feel bored. She put the dagger aside, then sat on the chair in front of me and looked at the two burly men behind me listlessly and said lightly, I'm a bit tired. Let her keep you entertained for a while. Although I was tied to the chair and couldn't move with my consciousness blurred, I was very clear about what Olivia's casual words meant. Seeing the two men approaching me step by step, I was completely panicked. Olivia, what you're doing is illegal. I struggled to speak. Every word I uttered made the wounds on my face feel as if they were being torn apart again, causing extreme pain. Olivia clapped her hands indifferently. It doesn't matter. No matter what I do, my father can fix it for me. At this time, the two burly men had already walked up to me and were staring at me evilly. The desire in their eyes was even more frightening than the dagger in Olivia's hand. I looked horrified, as if facing a formidable enemy. No, don't come over. Cherish it. With your hideous appearance like this, maybe only the two of us brothers are willing to touch you. With that, the two of them rubbed their hands and reached out to touch me. At the moment of being touched, I felt as if thousands of ants were crawling on my body. It was extremely disgusting. Go away, go away. With my hands and feet tied, I couldn't break free. I could only keep shaking my body while sitting on the chair. I could even clearly feel that under my shaking, the cut flesh on my face seemed to be about to fall off at any time. But I had no time to care about that. I just wanted to escape from their touch. Why are you pretending to be a chaste and fierce woman? One of the men seemed to lose his patience and directly slapped me hard, knocking me and the chair to the ground. I lay on the ground, and my vision became blurred. The intense pain from that slap almost made me faint. Pain, fear, helplessness, and despair. They were like surging waves, sweeping over me crazily layer by layer. But the devil's claws didn't show any mercy to me. They were like the tentacles of the god of death, reaching out to my body again. I wanted to resist, but I was powerless. I could only be like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered, allowing them to tear my clothes apart. The aura of death surrounded me, telling me, don't resist. Accept your fate. Yeah, what could I use to resist now? And who could save me? Perhaps I was really going to die. I vaguely saw Ethan's figure. Just like when I fell in love with him for the first time, he was bathed in bright light. He quickly approached me step by step, with worry in his eyes. Was this the last gift from the god of death to me, a pitiful person? Letting me see the man I had once longed for before I died. Well, that was kind of nice. I closed my eyes and let the tears slide down my scarred cheeks. I accepted my fate. Anna, wake up. But why was I being held in someone's arms, and Ethan's voice sounded so clearly beside my ear? All of this was like a dream, making it hard for me to tell what was real and what was fake. I struggled to lift my eyelids, trying hard to see clearly what was in front of me. It was Ethan. He really came to save me, Ethan? I tentatively opened my mouth. It seemed that just calling out his name had used up all my strength. He held me in his arms and nodded frantically. It's me, it's me. I'm sorry. I'm late. Ethan had lost weight and looked much more haggard. He, who had always been particular about cleanliness, showed up in front of me with a stubbly beard, and his hair seemed to have not been taken care of for a long time. He was in a mess all over. He didn't look like his old self at all. No wonder Olivia said Ethan was crazy. He really looked crazy like this. His eyes seemed to be bloodshot. Staring at my blood-stained face, he reached out to touch it but was afraid of hurting me, so he just stroked my hair very tenderly. This was the first time I saw him like this. Was it heartache, guilt, or anger? I couldn't tell. I felt a bit tired. I wanted to sleep. Anna, wait until the doctor comes before you sleep, okay? Ethan said affectionately. There was no order, nor was it a plea. There was only gentle concern. Okay. I nodded as if possessed by something. Looking around, Olivia and the two men she brought had already been restrained by the people Ethan brought. You take a rest. I'll handle today's matter for you. Ethan helped me to the chair, gently put me down, and then put his suit jacket on me. His gentle eyes were like a whirlpool, attracting my heart. It seemed that they were going to make me fall for him again. The next moment, Ethan turned to look at Olivia. Those gentle eyes instantly became extremely cold and stern. He was a completely different person from just now. Brother Ethan, you're finally willing to see me. I knew you definitely still couldn't let me go, right? Olivia was only immersed in the joy of seeing Ethan again and didn't sense the murderous coldness on him at all. Ethan walked towards Olivia, and his voice was like an ice pick. Why did you lay hands on Anna? Of course it's because of you. Who told you to cut off contact with me for her? Olivia pouted and acted coquettishly towards Ethan as before. In the past, at times like this, Ethan would touch her head and smile affectionately. But now, Ethan was only angry. There was a strong hatred in his tone. Aren't you afraid of my revenge? Olivia broke free from the restraint of others and, as before, she gracefully took Ethan's arm and said confidently, You love me so much. You wouldn't bear to hurt me. When she said this, Olivia also looked at me intentionally or unintentionally. I endured the heart-piercing pain and struggled to stay conscious as I watched Ethan and Olivia. I indeed won't hurt you, Ethan said coldly. The corners of Olivia's mouth lifted slightly, and she once again threw a provocative and complacent look at me. But in that instant, extreme astonishment flashed in her eyes. She widened her eyes and stared at Ethan in a daze, her eyes full of disbelief. But I'll kill you. It was only at this moment that Ethan gritted his teeth and added the next sentence. Olivia subconsciously looked towards her own heart. There, a dagger was deeply plunged in, and blood was slowly seeping out. Ethan had killed Olivia with his own hands. With unwillingness and extreme shock, Olivia collapsed to the ground under Ethan's cold gaze. Why? She spat out blood but still looked at Ethan with a glimmer of hope. You shouldn't have hurt Anna. She is my bottom line. After saying this indifferently, Ethan didn't look at Olivia again. Seeing this scene, I was also dumbfounded. I never expected that Ethan, who had always regarded Olivia as the apple of his eye, would kill her for me. This fact hit me so hard that I, who was already extremely weak, couldn't bear it any longer. I passed out. In the darkness, I vaguely felt as if someone kissed my forehead and said sorry to me. When I opened my eyes again, I was already in the hospital. Later, I learned that on the day I had the accident, Ethan was sentenced to prison for the crime of intentional homicide. As for Olivia, she also died on the spot. Before going to prison, Ethan deliberately transferred all of his assets to my name and arranged for the best doctors to heal my face. My life seemed to have returned to its previous state. Free and unrestrained, carefree. But I also felt that there seemed to be something in my body that came and went, leaving a strange emptiness in my heart. I knew that it was the place that belonged to Ethan. Sometimes I couldn't help blaming Ethan. Why did he reappear in my life? Why did he bring back the love that I had finally buried deep in my heart? I didn't want to be trapped by love. It would make people exhausted both physically and mentally. But sometimes, I would also be grateful to Ethan. It was he who made me understand what love was. It was he who made me deeply realize that I had once lived passionately. Many years later, a student asked me curiously, "Teacher, you're so beautiful. Why don't you get married?" I looked into the distance towards the south where Ethan was and said meaningfully, "I've been married. It's just that there was no groom at my wedding." The end.